I need advice. I want to break up with my boyfriend because I asked him to cook something for me, and he, like a typical macho man, said no just because he came home tired from work. He only works 10 hours. I also spend a lot of time editing my TikToks. I do not even know how to start this, but I feel a knot in my stomach that tells me I have to vent or I am going to explode. I think my relationship is over, and all because of something so simple, so basic, that I am even ashamed to say it, but it is the straw that broke the camel's back. My boyfriend, Javier, refused to make me dinner, and no, it is not as simple as it sounds. Behind that refusal hides a contempt so deep for what I do, for my time and for my effort, that I can no longer ignore it. People see my life on social media and think it is easy, that it is just about turning on the camera and smiling, but today has been a hellish day. I have been trying to record a TikTok since 9 in the morning, not just any one, but one of those that have the potential to go viral with a trending audio and a super complex transition that requires millimeter precision. The natural lighting was a disaster. The clouds kept passing and ruining the shot. I had to set up the whole set with the ring lights, move the furniture to get the perfect background, and repeat the same stupid 15-second choreography about 200 times. I literally felt like the muscles in my face were going to cramp from forcing the smile so much. Then comes the editing, which is another hell. Synchronizing each cut with the beat of the music. Adjusting the colors to make the video look attractive. Choosing the right hashtags so the algorithm pays attention to you. It is a mentally exhausting job, it is art, and it is marketing at the same time, and it requires a dedication that people simply do not understand. I finished around 7 in the evening with my eyes burning from the screen and a terrible migraine. I was exhausted, but satisfied. The video had turned out perfect. It was right at that moment when Javier came home. I heard him put down the keys. The heavy sigh he always makes. He works in construction, something about supervising works or I do not know what. And he always arrives the same way, covered in dust, smelling of cement, and with that tired face that looks like it is going to break. Normally, I try to be understanding. I ask him how his day was. But today it was I who needed a break, some pampering. I had also had a hard day, a day of creating, of putting my soul into my content, which is my job and my passion. So I approached him, gave him a quick kiss, and asked him with all the sweetness in the world if he could make me dinner. I had an incredible craving for a pasta with pesto and chicken that I had seen in a video, and I described it to him in great detail. His response was a stab. He did not even look me in the eye. He took off his boots while saying love. I am dead. I have spent 10 hours in the sun. Can we not just order a pizza or something? And he said it with that tone, that condescending tone he uses when he talks about my work, as if his 10 hours moving bricks were objectively more exhausting than my 10 hours of creative and meticulous work, as if my tiredness was a whim and his a universal truth. At that moment, I felt something ignite inside me. It was not about the pasta, obviously, it was about the invalidation. It was the hidden message behind his words. Your day does not count. Your work is not work. Your exhaustion is a joke next to mine. Pizza, always pizza, the easy solution to not have to make the slightest effort for me. I calmly explained to him that I was also exhausted, that I had been working nonstop, that I needed to feel cared for once. And that is when he finished me off. He laughed. A short laugh, almost a snort. Laura, please do not compare. You are at home. With the air conditioning. I have spent the whole day yelling so a beam does not fall on anyone's head. And that was the sentence that broke everything, the confirmation that for him I am just a girl who plays with her phone at home while he, the real man, goes out to earn a living. And no, I am not going to tolerate it anymore. Machismo does not always come in the form of yelling or prohibitions. Sometimes it is more subtle. It disguises itself as tiredness, as logic, as common sense. It hides in the way it minimizes your effort, in how it takes for granted that your time is worth less than his. It manifests in that condescending little laugh that makes it clear that your world, your problems, and your work are a second-rate version of his. And I am sick of it. Sick of feeling like I have to justify every hour I invest in my career. Sick of my exhaustion being less valid than his just because I do not come home with my hands dirty with cement. I think this relationship has come to an end and all because he was not able to see beyond his own belly button and make me a simple plate of pasta. I stayed silent in the living room while he got in the shower and the rage burned inside me. The tears started to fall on their own, not of sadness, but of pure helplessness. How could he be so blind, so unfair? Instead of confronting him and starting a fight that I knew would lead nowhere, because he simply does not get it, I did what I do best, communicate my feelings through my platform. I grabbed my phone, looked for a sad song that was trending, and recorded myself. I did not say his name, of course, I am not one of those, but I sat on the floor of our room with the sunset light coming through the window and let the camera capture my tear-filled face. The text I put over the video was simple, but direct, reminder. Never beg anyone for the bare minimum. If it does not come from them, it is not worth it. And in the description I added something longer, talking about the importance of having a partner who values all forms of work and effort, not just those that involve physical strength. I talked about how emotional and creative exhaustion is just as valid as physical exhaustion, and how true love is shown in the small gestures, like making dinner for the person you love when they have had a difficult day. I published the video and turned off the notifications. It was not an attack, it was a release, a way of connecting with my community that I knew would understand me. Almost instantly, my phone started to vibrate nonstop. It was my friend Valeria, another content creator. She sent me a screenshot of the TikTok and a bunch of messages. It is about Javier. Girl, how intense. You are a queen. Do not let anyone treat you like that. The bare minimum is the least you can ask for. If he cannot make you dinner, he does not deserve you. Her words were like a balm. I felt seen, understood. I was not crazy. My reaction was not exaggerated. I had every right in the world to feel this way. Valeria has always supported me. She perfectly understands the pressure and the work behind what we do. She told me I was brave for exposing it, even if it was in a subtle way. When Javier got out of the shower, I was already calmer, but also firmer in my conviction. He approached me wrapped in a towel and saw me looking at my phone. What is wrong? Are you still mad about the dinner thing? He asked me. And right at that moment, his phone, which was on the bedside table, lit up with a notification. It was from TikTok. A friend of his had sent him my video. I saw how his face changed, confusion, then pain, and finally anger. Laura, what is this? What is this? He said, showing me the screen. His voice was an icy whisper. That is when the real fight started. But it was no longer about the dinner. Now it was about how I had violated his privacy and publicly humiliated him. I tried to explain that it was not about him, that it was my feelings, my truth, but he would not listen. You have told our problems to thousands of strangers just to get likes, he yelled at me. And that is what hurt me the most, that he reduced my vulnerability, my attempt to connect and seek support to a simple search for digital validation. He did not understand that my community is my refuge, the place where I feel safe to be myself. The argument escalated. He accused me of being an attention addict, and I accused him of being an insensitive macho who had no idea of the world he lived in. Every word that came out of his mouth only confirmed my suspicions. He did not care about my pain, only his image. He was only worried about what his friends might think when they saw the video. His wounded ego was more important than my broken heart. The gap between us became wider than ever. There was no going back. The TikTok had brought to light the truth I had been ignoring for a long time. He and I lived in different worlds and has had no room for me. The next morning, the atmosphere at home was unbearable. We did not speak. He moved around the apartment with a stiffness I had never seen in him, as if he were a stranger. I, on the other hand, felt strangely powerful. The TikTok had gone viral overnight. I had thousands of comments, most of them from girls who agreed with me, who shared similar stories, who called me brave and necessary. We're with you, Queen. If it does not add, let it subtract. Those are the red flags you have to see. Reading all that was addictive. It was the validation that Javier had never given me. I felt like I was not alone, that my struggle was the struggle of many. Valeria called me to congratulate me. She told me I was creating a movement and that I should not let him make me feel guilty. At noon, Javier approached me. His face showed a mixture of exhaustion and sadness. "Laura, we need to talk," he said in a soft voice. "Look, I am sorry. I was exhausted yesterday, and I was an idiot. I should not have belittled your day. It was stupid of me, but the video thing, that has destroyed me. Can we please talk about this? Fix it." At that moment, a part of me, a very small one, felt a pang of something like guilt. But then I saw the perfect opportunity, the opportunity to show the world who he really was when he thought no one was looking. As he began to talk, to apologize, to try to find a solution, I, with a discreet movement, picked up my phone from the table, propped it against a sofa cushion, and without him noticing, I hit record. My heart was beating a mile a minute. I thought, if he is really sorry, he will not say anything bad, but if he is the manipulator I think he is, he will give himself away. This is for my safety, it is to have proof. I justified it to myself by saying it was a protective measure, that women always have to protect themselves from men who try to manipulate them with false apologies. I continued the conversation, nodding, asking him questions. I wanted to provoke him. "But Javi, do you really think what I do is a job?" I asked him with a falsely innocent voice. He frowned. "Laura, I have already apologized for that. Let's not start again. What I mean is that you cannot publish every problem we have. It is a lack of respect for me for us." I insisted, a lack of respect. "Or are you ashamed that people know you are not the perfect boyfriend you pretend to be?" I was pushing his buttons, waiting for him to explode, to say something, anything I could use. And then his gaze shifted. He focused on the cushion, on the small black dot of my phone's lens peeking out. He fell silent. The color drained from his face. He slowly reached out and picked up the phone. He turned it over and saw his own face on the screen with the red recording dot blinking in the corner. The silence that fell in the room was the most terrifying thing I have ever heard in my life. He looked at me, and in his eyes there was no longer sadness or any desire to fix things. There was only a mixture of disgust and a betrayal so deep that I felt a shiver. He held up the phone. "Are you recording me, Laura?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper, but it resonated like thunder. That was the point of no return. Trust had not just been broken, I had pulverized it on purpose. My first instinct was to deny it. A nervous laugh escaped my mouth. "What are you talking about?" I was looking at something. It got stuck. The lie sounded pathetic, even to my own ears. He did not even blink. He turned off the recording, put the phone on the table with almost ceremonial care, and stared at me. "It is over," he said. Just those 2 words. He got up from the sofa and walked to our room. I was paralyzed, my brain trying to process what had just happened, desperately looking for a way to turn the situation around, to make him the guilty one. I followed him to the room, hearing the sound of drawers being opened abruptly. He was taking out his clothes and putting them carelessly into a suitcase. "Javier, wait, can we talk about it?" I begged, but my voice sounded hollow. He turned around, and for the first time in the 4 years we had been together, I saw hatred in his eyes. "Talk? What do you want me to talk about so you can have more content for your next video? So your followers can applaud you while you destroy me? What else do you want to record, Laura? Do you want to record me while I pack my suitcase? Go ahead. I am sure it will get you a couple of million views." Every word was a lash. It was at that moment that the argument truly exploded, without filters, without cameras. I screamed at him that he was paranoid, that I had done it to protect myself. And he laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. And then he said the phrase that for me confirmed everything. The definitive proof of his contempt. "Protect you? From what? I have been paying almost all the rent for this apartment for a year, so you can pursue your dream. I pay the bills, most of the groceries, so you do not lack for anything while you play at being famous. And this is how you repay me, by humiliating and betraying me." That was the atomic bomb, the money. Of course, he had to bring up the money. It was his last weapon, the way to remind me that he had the power, that I depended on him. In my mind, everything clicked. The refusal to cook was not because he was tired. The anger over the TikTok was not because of the humiliation. It was all a power play. He allowed me to live my dream so he could later throw it in my face to keep me under control. My narrative solidified in that instant. I was not the traitor. I was the victim of covert economic and emotional control. He was not a wounded boyfriend, he was a despot. I screamed at him that he was a classist, a sexist, that he used money to manipulate me, that if it bothered him so much to support me, he could leave and leave me in peace. And he did. He closed the suitcase, grabbed his jacket and his keys, stopped at the door and looked at me one last time. I hope the likes feed you, Laura, because you have already burned love and respect. And he left. The sound of the door closing was final. A slam on our life together. The silence that Javier left in his wake was dense, heavy. I stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by the things we had bought together in the apartment that now seemed like a golden cage he had built for me. I did not feel sadness, at least not at first. What I felt was a wave of righteous fury. He had called me out on the money. He had reduced me to a financial burden. Everything I had done, every video edited until dawn, every collaboration negotiated, every ounce of my energy put into building my brand, for him was nothing more than a game. Valeria was right, my community was right. He had never truly supported me. I sat on the sofa, the same one where I had recorded him, and opened my laptop. I needed to tell it. I needed the world to know the truth, my truth. I started writing this post, choosing each word with exquisite care. I began with the injustice of the dinner, the symbol of his disdain. I described his tiredness as an excuse, his refusal as an act of pure machismo. I talked about the TikTok as a desperate cry from a woman who felt invisible in her own home. Of course, I omitted certain details. I did not mention that I had recorded him without his consent. That would only complicate the story. People would not understand. They would not understand that it was an act of self-defense, a desperate measure. I also exaggerated my own exhaustion. I described my day of editing videos as if I had been mining in a salt mine. I needed people to understand the balance, that my effort was comparable to his, even if it was of a different nature. I painted his comment about money not as an explosion of pain in the middle of a horrible fight, but as the cold and calculated revelation of his true controlling nature. I presented it as the final act of a long campaign of belittlement and economic manipulation. I transformed a messy and complicated breakup into a clear and simple moral fable, that of the creative and hardworking woman against the resentful provider man. I reread the text several times. It was perfect. It was the story of a martyr, the story of a woman who had given everything for her career and her relationship, only to be betrayed by a man who could not stand her light. I felt completely justified. Every one of my actions, from the first TikTok to the secret recording, now seemed like logical and inevitable steps on my path to liberation. It was not I who had destroyed the relationship. It had been him, with his male fragility and his inability to accept a strong and independent woman by his side. With a feeling of deep and solemn conviction, I pressed the publish button. I watched the screen waiting for the first comments to arrive. I was not looking for advice, I already knew what I had to do. I was looking for confirmation. I was looking for an army of strangers to tell me what I already knew, that I had done the right thing, that I was the victim, and he was the monster, and I was sure I would find it. The world, unlike Javier, would understand me. Popular Reddit comments on the main story. Anonymous User 1. It sounds like there is a lot more to this story, that he pays most of the bills, and you publicly expose him for not making you dinner after a 10-hour day of physical labor, and then secretly record him. Honestly, OP, it seems like you are the red flag. You destroyed trust in an irreparable way. He does not owe you dinner, especially if you are contributing so little to the household. OP's reply. It is incredible how some men read this and automatically take his side. Money does not give you the right to treat your partner as if they were inferior. The problem is not the dinner, it is the gesture. It is the complete invalidation of my work and my effort. Or does creative work not count? Recording him was a mistake, I admit it, but it was an act of desperation. I was trying to get him to see himself, his true face. But of course, it is easier to blame the woman. Anonymous User 2 OP. I think you need to reflect on the role of social media in your life. It seems you prioritize the validation of strangers over respect for your partner. Airing your problems on TikTok was an unnecessary and very cruel escalation. Relationships require privacy and trust. What you did with the camera was a textbook betrayal. I am not surprised he left you. OP's reply. My community are not strangers. They are the people who support me unconditionally, something he never did. I was not looking for validation. I was looking for a safe space to express my pain. Do I not have the right to feel hurt? Do I not have the right to share my experience so that other women do not fall into the same thing? It is very easy to judge from the outside, but you have no idea what it is like to feel constantly belittled by the person who is supposed to love you. Anonymous User 3. I understand you perfectly. Up. The weaponized incompetence and the belittling of work that is not physically exhausting are very real forms of machismo. That he brought up the money only shows that he saw it as a transaction and not as a partnership. I am so sorry you went through this. You are strong and you will get through this. OP's reply. Thank you, really. Thank you. It is a relief to see that someone gets it. Exactly. It was a transaction for him. I was his little investment in a hobby, not his life partner. People get stuck on the dramatic details like the recording, but they do not see the pattern of microaggressions and lack of respect that led me to that point. Thank you for your words. They mean a lot to me. Update 1. A week has passed and my life is a chaos, but one that I feel I needed. Thanks to those who supported me and to those who criticized me. Well, I guess everyone sees things from their own perspective. The negative comments hurt me at first. They made me doubt for a second, but then I realized they were just people who did not understand the power dynamic that existed in my relationship. I am not going to apologize for defending myself. Javier has not tried to contact me, which is a blessing. I need space to heal from all the emotional damage he has caused me. Who did contact me was his sister, and not exactly to offer condolences. She called me yesterday afternoon screaming like a crazy person. She told me that Javier was devastated, that he was not leaving his room at his parents' house, but what impacted me the most was what she said next. According to her, the problem was not the breakup, it was the humiliation. She told me that Javier was always bragging about my videos to his friends and family, that even though he did not understand much about TikTok, he always told them with pride, Laura is super creative, she is great at this, she is going to go far. She said he felt as if I had stabbed him in the back in front of everyone. I have to be honest, for an instant, a very brief and stupid instant, I felt a pang of something ugly in my chest. Guilt, perhaps. The image of Javier, who has always been so tough and reserved, bragging about me behind my back, unsettled me. But then I remembered his condescending laugh, his words about money, his refusal to make me a simple dinner, and I realized what was happening. It was a tactic. His family was trying to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty so that I would come crawling back and begging for forgiveness. I was not going to fall into their trap. That supposed defense in private meant nothing if at home he treated me like a child with an expensive hobby. The good news is that not everyone has turned their back on me. My friend Valeria has been my rock. She has been with me every day bringing me coffee and cheering me up, and she has come up with a brilliant idea. She has proposed that we make a collaborative video for her channel, which has many more followers than mine. The theme would be 5 red flags in toxic relationships that you should not ignore. We would use my story anonymously, of course, as the common thread to talk about invalidation, economic control, and emotional manipulation. Valeria says it is the perfect opportunity to transform my pain into something positive, to empower other women and in the process, give my career a boost. I accepted without hesitation. It is exactly what I need, a way to take control of my own narrative, to make my version of the story the one that prevails. Meanwhile, I have realized that Javier has blocked me on all social media. Some of our mutual friends have also stopped following me and look at me strangely when I run into them on the street. It is clear that he has been spreading his victim version of the story. It hurts, but it also gives me more strength. They're isolating me, trying to silence me, but they will not succeed. This video with Valeria is going to be my answer, and it is going to be much more powerful than any gossip he can tell. Popular Reddit comments on the update. 1. Anonymous User 4. Wow, OP. His sister tells you that he supported you in private, and your conclusion is that it is a family manipulation tactic. And your solution to all this is to make another public video to continue humiliating him and monetize your breakup. It is becoming clearer and clearer to me that you do not care about anything other than your online image and the numbers. You are burning all your bridges for a few more likes. OP's reply: I am not monetizing my breakup. I am transforming a negative experience into educational content that can help other people. Why is that so hard to understand? And yes, it is a manipulation tactic. Or do you really believe that someone who truly supports you then throws money in your face and belittles your work to your face? Actions speak louder than words, and his actions showed me that he did not respect me. Anonymous User 5. The thing about Javier bragging about your videos is really sad. It shows that in his own way he was proud of you, even if he did not understand your world. It seems he saw your lives as a team. He took care of the financial part while you built your career, and you saw it as a competition. The video with your friends sounds like a terrible and vengeful idea. OP's reply: a team does not work like that. A team supports each other in everything, not just when it is convenient. He was not in charge of the financial part. He paid more because he earned much more, and he used it as a weapon to make me feel small. The video is not revenge, it is empowerment. I am telling my story. I have the right to do so. Anonymous User 6. That friend of yours, Valeria, sounds like a terrible influence. It seems she is throwing gasoline on the fire for her own benefit. A real friend would help you reflect and heal in private, not plan a public exhibition to gain followers. Be careful, OP. It seems you are surrounding yourself with people who only want to use your drama. OP's reply: Valeria is the only person who has understood me from the beginning. She knows how tough this world is and how important it is to control your own story. She is not using my drama, she is offering me a platform to raise my voice. She is the only one who has been by my side unconditionally, and that is more than I can say for Javier or our supposed mutual friends. Final update. I guess this is the end of the road. I do not really know what I expected, but it certainly was not this. The video with Valeria was a disaster. A total and absolute disaster. We filmed it, we edited it, we published it, and the reaction was horrible. We thought we were doing something powerful, but people saw it as what I suppose deep down it was a petty and one-sided attack against an anonymous person who could not defend himself. The comments were brutal. This sounds incredibly biased. There are two sides to every story, and here we only hear a very resentful one. Per boyfriend. It sounds like he dodged a bullet. Even Valeria's followers criticized her for taking part in something like that. My followers, instead of increasing, started to drop. But that was not the worst blow. The real blow came yesterday in the form of an envelope with the real estate agency's logo. I opened it thinking it would be some routine notification. It was a formal notice of non-renewal of the lease agreement. The contract, as I discovered in that moment of icy panic, was solely in Javier's name. He had notified the landlord that he was leaving at the end of the month, and since I was not listed as a tenant, I had 30 days to vacate the property. 30 days to find a new place, pay a security deposit, a first month's rent, and organize a move alone. Reality hit me with the force of a freight train. I opened the bank app, looked at my income from the last few months from TikTok and collaborations. The figure was ridiculous. It barely covered my personal expenses. A security deposit and rent in this city. Impossible. The job I had fought so hard for, the one I had defended as if it were the most important mission in the world, could not even keep a roof over my head. Javier did not control me with money, he simply paid the bills. And I, in my bubble of content creation and online validation, had never stopped to think about it. In an act of pure desperation, I swallowed my pride and wrote to him. I begged him, I asked him if we could talk, if he could give me more time. His response came within 5 minutes. A short, cold, impersonal message. Laura, I have already given you a year so you could focus on your thing without worrying about anything. I sincerely wish you the best of luck, but my decision is made. Please do not contact me again. And that was it. The door was not just closed, it was sealed with cement, the same cement I had mocked. So here I am, sitting on the floor of the almost empty apartment, surrounded by boxes that I do not know where to take. Valeria has distanced herself a bit since the failure of the video. I guess the drama is no longer profitable. I have to call my parents and ask them if I can move back into my teenage bedroom. A humiliation I do not know how I am going to bear. And the worst part is that in the silence of this place, I no longer have anyone to blame. I cannot blame the haters for the failure of the video. I cannot blame Valeria for her bad advice, and as much as I try, I cannot even fully blame Javier for leaving me on the street. He did not leave me on the street, he simply moved on with his life. I was the one who lit the match, who threw the gasoline, and who danced while everything burned, convinced that I was the heroine of a great story of empowerment. But now, with the smoke clearing, I only see the ruins and I am alone in the middle of them. I guess in the end I did get viral content. The story of my own self-destruction. Popular Reddit comments on the final update. Anonymous User 7. This is hard to read, OP, but it is the direct consequence of your actions. You used your boyfriend, who seemed to support you in his own way, as a villain for your online narrative, and it has blown up in your face. I hope this serves as a lesson in humility and about the difference between real life and the life you project on the internet. Good luck. OP's reply. I do not need lessons from anyone. And it is not a matter of real life versus online life. My online life is my work and my life. The problem was trusting the wrong person. If he had truly supported me, we would have talked about this, and it would not have come to this point. He chose the easy way out, to run away and leave me stranded. Anonymous User 8. Javier's message says it all. I have already given you a year so you could focus on your thing without worrying about anything. He gave you an incredible gift, time and financial security to pursue your dream. And you repaid him with a public humiliation. You deserve every second of this situation. It is karma in its purest form. OP's reply. A gift. Are you serious? It was not a gift. It was an invisible leash. It was his way of making sure I would always depend on him, that he would have the last word. Karma does not exist. What exists are men who cannot stand to see a woman succeed on her own and who pull the rug out from under her feet as soon as they get the chance. Anonymous User 9OP. In your first post, you described yourself as a martyr, and in a way you are. You are a martyr to your own ego and your addiction to social media validation. You have sacrificed a relationship, your home, and your dignity for a handful of likes and supportive comments from people who do not know you. It is a tragedy, but one that you yourself have written, directed, and starred in. OP's reply. You can call it ego if you want. I call it having standards. I refuse to settle for a man who did not value me, and I have paid a price for it. Yes, but at least I am true to myself. You do not know anything about my story, only what I have wanted to tell. Someday people will understand my version. Someday,